Welcome to Hollywood Secrets Information. In this video, we're diving deep into the world of Hollywood's hardest, grittiest, and most resilient actors who weren't just tough on screen but also lived it off-screen. These legends brought raw power, unshakable presence, and sometimes even real-life danger to their roles. From barroom brawlers and war heroes to stunt masters and street fighters, these men carved their names into Hollywood history as the toughest actors ever. Make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating Hollywood stories. 1. John Wayne. When you think of toughness in Hollywood, John Wayne is often the first name that comes to mind. Known as the Duke, Wayne embodied rugged American masculinity on screen for decades. Born Marion Morrison in 1907, Wayne didn't just play cowboys and soldiers, he lived like one. He was famously stubborn, loyal, and larger than life. Wayne stood at 6 feet 4 inches and had a commanding presence that made him an icon of westerns and war films. Wayne's toughness wasn't just about acting. He survived multiple surgeries and health scares, including a major battle with lung cancer in the 1960s. Even after having a lung and several ribs removed, he continued to work in grueling roles, often refusing stunt doubles. His career spanned over 170 films, with classics like True Grit, for which he won an Oscar, The Searchers, and Stagecoach. Off-screen, he was known for drinking hard, standing his ground in fights, and never backing away from controversy. Wayne wasn't just a tough guy in the movies, he was a Hollywood titan who redefined American toughness. 2. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson had the kind of face that told you he'd been through battles long before Hollywood. And it was true. Born into poverty in a coal mining family in Pennsylvania, Bronson worked in the mines as a teenager before serving as a tail gunner in World War II, flying dangerous combat missions. After the war, he turned to acting, but his war-hardened background gave him an edge unlike anyone else. Bronson became one of the great action stars of the 1960s and 70s, starring in films like The Magnificent Seven, The Dirty Dozen, and the Death Wish series. His on-screen persona was quiet, intense, and unshakable. He didn't need many words, his presence said it all. Off-screen, Bronson was no less tough. Known to be a man of few words in real life, he had little patience for Hollywood politics. He didn't flaunt wealth or fame, instead choosing a private life where he valued discipline and strength. Bronson's ability to project menace and control with a single look made him one of the most intimidating and toughest actors in Hollywood history. 3. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen wasn't just tough, he was the definition of cool. Nicknamed the King of Cool, McQueen's toughness came from his rebellious spirit and fearless approach to life. McQueen grew up in reform schools and had a troubled youth, but he turned his hardships into fuel for an acting career that made him one of the biggest stars of the 1960s and 70s. His films like Bullet, The Great Escape, and The Magnificent Seven showed him as a no-nonsense, fearless hero. But what made McQueen truly tough was his passion for racing and doing his own stunts. He was a skilled motorcycle and car racer, often competing in professional races and performing dangerous stunts himself. The legendary chase scene in Bullet is still one of the most thrilling in cinema, largely because McQueen insisted on being behind the wheel. Off-screen, McQueen had a rough edge. He lived fast, rode hard, and had no fear of confrontation. He also battled cancer with dignity, spending his final days seeking treatments but never losing his grit. McQueen's toughness wasn't just an act, it was his lifestyle. 4. Clint Eastwood. Few actors embody the word tough like Clint Eastwood. From his spaghetti westerns to his cop dramas, Eastwood carved a career out of stoic, no-nonsense characters who let their guns, and their silence, do the talking. Eastwood rose to fame with Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, playing the iconic Man with No Name. Later, he became the unstoppable cop Dirty Harry, delivering one of cinema's most famous lines, "Go ahead, make my day." But Eastwood's toughness wasn't limited to his characters. Off-screen, he was known for his relentless work ethic, directing and acting well into his 90s. He demanded physical endurance on set, often performing dangerous stunts himself. Eastwood also had an ironclad reputation for being a man of principle. He stood his ground in Hollywood, never bending to studio pressure, and built a legendary directing career with films like Unforgiven, Gran Torino, and $1 Million Baby. With his lean frame, piercing eyes, and unbreakable will, Eastwood remains one of the toughest and most respected men in Hollywood history. 5. Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin wasn't just acting tough, he was tough. Before becoming a Hollywood star, Marvin served as a Marine in World War II. He fought in the Pacific, where he was wounded in action during the Battle of Saipan, earning a Purple Heart. That real-life toughness carried over to his career. Marvin's gravelly voice, scarred face, and towering height made him the perfect anti-hero. He became famous for tough guy roles in films like The Dirty Dozen, Point Blank, and Cat Ballou, for which he won an Oscar. Unlike many actors, Marvin didn't have to pretend. He was the hardened soldier, the street brawler, the no-nonsense leader. Off-screen, Marvin was known for his bar fights, heavy drinking, and refusal to compromise who he was. He carried himself with the confidence of a man who had faced death in war and lived to tell about it. Lee Marvin stands as one of Hollywood's toughest actors because he brought real-life grit to the screen. 6. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum had the aura of a man who had seen it all and didn't care what anyone thought. That made him one of Hollywood's ultimate tough guys. Mitchum's career spanned decades, with classic roles in Out of the Past, The Night of the Hunter, and Cape Fear. His deep voice and sleepy-eyed glare made him a natural for dangerous, morally complex characters. But Mitchum's off-screen life was just as legendary. He was famously arrested for marijuana possession in 1948, long before Hollywood became tolerant of such behavior. Instead of ruining him, it enhanced his reputation as a rebellious, untouchable figure. Mitchum also worked a variety of hard jobs before acting, including boxing, mining, and working on railroads. He carried that working-class toughness into his roles, making his characters authentic and intimidating. He wasn't just tough in movies, he lived by his own rules in real life, never bowing to Hollywood's expectations. 7. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas had one of the most powerful screen presences in Hollywood history. With his cleft chin, fiery energy, and iron will, he was a force to be reckoned with. Born Isser Danielovich, Douglas grew up poor but fought his way into acting through sheer determination. He became one of the most iconic stars of the 1950s and 60s, with roles in Spartacus, Paths of Glory, and Champion. Douglas's toughness wasn't just physical, it was moral. He famously broke the Hollywood blacklist by hiring blacklisted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo for Spartacus. At a time when others were too afraid to take a stand, Douglas risked his career to do what he believed was right. Even in old age, Douglas showed remarkable resilience. After suffering a debilitating stroke in 1996, he relearned how to speak and continued to inspire audiences with his determination. Douglas's toughness came from both his performances and his personal courage. 8. James Coburn. James Coburn had a unique kind of toughness, cool, smooth, and deadly. With his lean frame and dangerous grin, Coburn made a name for himself in films like The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, and Our Man Flint. Coburn wasn't just an actor, he was also a martial arts expert. He studied under Bruce Lee himself and became a close friend of the martial arts legend. Coburn's dedication to physical fitness and combat training gave him an authenticity on screen that few actors could match. Off-screen, he endured severe rheumatoid arthritis, which at one point left him nearly crippled. But instead of giving in, Coburn fought back with alternative treatments and exercise, regaining mobility and even returning to win an Oscar in his later years. Coburn's toughness wasn't just about fighting, it was about surviving and thriving against all odds. 9. Ernest Borgnine. Ernest Borgnine may not have looked like your typical Hollywood tough guy, but don't be fooled. With his burly build and wide grin, Borgnine could play lovable characters, but he was also a true force of nature. Before Hollywood, Borgnine served in the U.S. Navy for over a decade, including during World War II. That military discipline and toughness carried into his career. He starred in films like Marty, for which he won an Oscar, The Wild Bunch, and From Here to Eternity. Borgnine was fearless in taking on gritty, violent roles, often portraying men who lived by their fists. Off-screen, he was known as a fun-loving, no-nonsense man who didn't shy away from hard work or tough conditions. His blend of humor, physicality, and sheer presence made him one of Hollywood's most durable tough guys. 10. Bruce Lee. No list of Hollywood's toughest actors would be complete without Bruce Lee. Though his career in Hollywood was tragically short, his impact was unmatched. Lee was more than an actor, he was a martial arts revolutionary. With films like Enter the Dragon and The Way of the Dragon, he brought martial arts into mainstream cinema and changed the way fight scenes were choreographed forever. What made Lee so tough was not just his fighting ability, but his philosophy. He trained relentlessly, pushing his body and mind to their limits. His martial arts style, Jeet Kune Do, emphasized adaptability, speed, and efficiency. Off-screen, Lee faced racism and resistance in Hollywood, but he never let it break him. He paved the way for Asian actors and became a global icon of strength, discipline, and resilience. Even decades after his death at just 32, Bruce Lee remains the ultimate symbol of toughness in Hollywood history. And there you have the 10 toughest actors in Hollywood history. From John Wayne's rugged cowboy grit to Bruce Lee's lightning-fast martial arts, these men weren't just acting tough, they lived it. Their legacies remind us that toughness comes in many forms: physical strength, survival, rebellion, resilience, and courage. If you enjoyed this dive into Hollywood's hardest legends, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from the golden world of cinema. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.